What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and today we are going to answer the age-old question, is Caribou Crossing the Canadian version of Blanton's? Now, let's talk a little bit about both of these bottles before we get into our tasting notes. Bottle number one coming out of Old Montreal Distillery in Canada, obviously from Montreal, a single-barrel Caribou Crossing. Comes with the caribou right on top, which is a reindeer, by the way. Never knew that a caribou was a reindeer. Didn't even know reindeer really existed. Am I the only one? I just thought that was like a Santa thing. Anyway, we have Caribou Crossing. This is coming in at 80 proof, a $50 MSRP for this, if you can find it at MSRP. Non-age stated, although everything I'm reading says at least 3 years old, and then undisclosed mash bill. Then we have Blanton's. You probably know all about Blanton's. We've got the horse on top. We've got a letter for each horse, which you can spell out Blanton's. You can send that into Buffalo Trace Distillery. They will put it on a nice display for you and send it back. This is coming in at 93 proof. Again, non-age stated, undisclosed mash bill, although we do know that this is mash bill number 2 from Buffalo Trace, the high rye mash bill. All that being said, I couldn't decide whether I wanted to do this blind, whether I wanted to one day just let Marissa pick out a double blind for me and give her a couple of options and put this as one of them, or if I was going to pour these up regularly and drink them and just give tasting notes on both. I decided at the end of the day I wanted to know which one was which. I think I would be able to tell if I was just doing it blind between the two. A double blind, maybe we wouldn't be able to figure it out, but then we would kind of lose the thrill of, does Caribou Crossing deserve to be in the same rank as something like Blanton's? So we know all the details, we know all the information. Caribou Crossing is apparently the first single barrel in Canada. I don't know how much I believe that. It seems like a ridiculous thing. This is apparently put out twice a year. I bought this in New Jersey last year sometime, and I just got around to opening it. I don't know if there's a way to tell like which batch or which release this is. It's got like a product number or code etched in at the bottom here. I don't know if I can look that up to figure it out, but I don't see anything that's telling me specifically which batch or release this is. Now, if you've picked up a bottle of Blanton's before, it's probably either come in a box or in a brown bag. Now, this particular Blanton's didn't come in either. Sometimes here in Pennsylvania, and I don't know if this is true or not, I'm just making my own speculations, I think that the store clerks take the boxes or the bags as souvenirs, and then they just give you the bottles, and that's what you get because that's what you're paying for. Seems a little weird that every time I pick up a Blanton's here in Pennsylvania, I either get the box or nothing. I have one bag, I think, but I've had 5 or 6 bottles of Blanton's, only one bag. Usually it just comes in mesh and they hand it to you from behind the counter. Now, I haven't ordered one offline. These are starting to drop online. Caribou Crossing comes in a blue bag, I believe. It has a blue wax seal on this as well. So again, this is bottled by Buffalo Trace, by the way. Not distilled by Buffalo Trace, but bottled by Buffalo Trace. So it's distilled by Old Montreal, then they ship it down to Buffalo Trace where they bottle it. I don't know where it's aged. I believe it's aged in Montreal, where this is obviously aged in Kentucky at Buffalo Trace, distilled by Buffalo Trace, made by Buffalo Trace, both owned by Sazerac. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but let's get into glass number 1, our Blanton's. See the little pinky out on that one? I don't know why I did that. Was that tried to be fancy? When you're drinking Blanton's, pinky out. So here's my quick 2 cents on Blanton's, and I'll leave it at that. I don't think at $60 this is a bad pickup at all. I think it's actually a fantastic pour at $60. I understand the hate. I understand both sides of the story. I've seen this get traded on the secondary market, 10, 12, 13 bottles of this, because right now this is liquid gold. I don't know if somebody knows something I don't know, but at the current market, it is hard to find. I can usually get my hands on it here in Pennsylvania, but if they do move this to an online-only drop, I might have a little bit more difficulty getting it. That being said, if we move over to the Caribou Crossing, this is a little bit easier to find, at least I think so. This was just sitting on the shelf in New Jersey. It is about to drop on the Fine Wine, Good and Spirits. Is that what? Fine Wine and Good Spirits. That was crazy. It's been a long day. Fine Wine, Good and Spirits website this Wednesday. It actually dropped this previous Wednesday, but I think there was a little bit of a hiccup with the website, as is tradition. So I think this is going to drop again this Wednesday. This coming in at $50, this coming in at $60. I don't think either are a bad pickup, and let's get into these tasting notes now to see if these two compare taste-wise. Now, there's been a lot of stuff going on the internet right now, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, or even YouTube, where there's these series coming out of, if you can't find this bottle, pick up this bottle. And there's a lot of people that I respect on these apps and a lot of people that I trust. And they're telling you, if you can't find this bottle, pick up this bottle. I don't know an example off the top of my head One that I recommended recently was, if you can't find Blanton's, pick up John J. Bowman. I think they're absolute fantastic comparisons. But we're going to find out today is, if you can't find Blanton's and you can happen to stumble across Caribou Crossing, should you pick this up as a substitute? And that's the real basis of what I'm trying to get to. But let's try this Blanton's one more time and see what we think. Now, I haven't had a bad experience with Blanton's myself. I know they are single barrels, so you're going to get some great ones. You're going to get some good ones. I haven't personally had a bad one. This one right here is not a bad one at all. I get very good vanilla and brown sugar notes on this. I get that rye spice, being the high rye mash bill. I even get a little bit of citrus, a little bit of orange on this. And then for me, on this particular glass, I get honey on this, just that sweet honey. I love like dipping chicken nuggets in honey. That McDonald's honey, it's just so super sugary and sweet. I get a lot of that type of flavor profile on this particular bottle of Blanton's. That being said, I've obviously drank a little bit of this Caribou Crossing before I opened this up. I wanted to make sure it got some air. It got as long to sit around as this. It didn't get as long to sit around, but it got enough time to sit out rather than being a fresh crack versus something that was open. So let's get into our Caribou Crossing and see what we think. So the first word that I have for this particular Caribou Crossing is light. Now, I don't know if all of these are this way, but compared to this 93 proof Blanton's, this is very light, very easy sipping, and that's not a bad thing. If I were to put this in a blind and I knew everything was between 80 proof and 93 proof, I would probably guess this is the 80 proof, and I would probably guess this is the 93 proof, just because they stand out so far on the spectrum as far as proof goes. This literally sips like it's under 80 proof, but if I knew it was a bourbon or if I knew it was a whiskey between 80 and 93, I would definitely put this at the bottom of the scale. I get no spice on this when it comes to rye or anything like that. This is an undisclosed mash bill. If I were to drink this blind again, I would think this was probably, I wouldn't even say it's a wheated because it's not super sweet either. I don't know if there's any rules or regulations when it comes to Canadian whiskey. I don't know if it has to be aged for a certain period of time. I don't know if it has to be distilled at a certain proof. I literally know nothing about it. Can this just be a whiskey made in Canada and now it's a Canadian whiskey? If they bring it back to Kentucky to bottle it, does that mean anything special? I don't know. If you know anything about Canadian whiskey specifically, and I'm looking at a couple of you because I know that you do, let me know if there's any rules or regulations that you have to meet to be considered a Canadian whiskey. That being said, this is still a delicious whiskey. The big note that I'm getting off this is it's like an evergreen tree. It's like, it reminds me of Christmas almost. I don't know when they release this twice a year, but I would assume one time would be around Christmas time, because the Canadians, the snow, the evergreens, that's what I'm literally imagining, that type of like landscape as I drink this. It's not even something that I would want to drink in the winter, which is the craziest part, because it's so light, it's so smooth, it's so easy to drink. It's one of those things that's like, my mind's kind of running in both directions with this. I had an 80-degree day here in Pennsylvania. Tomorrow's going to be 60-something. I could drink this both in front of a campfire and yet also on like a 95-degree sunny day sitting out back on the deck. I don't know. It seems very versatile when it comes to that type of particular flavor profile and the lightness on this. It's just... Normally, I'm reaching for a barrel proof when it's wintertime, but I could easily reach for this in the wintertime. And I'm sorry if I'm going on a tangent, but this is just throwing me off. Canadian whiskey, this is only the second Canadian whiskey I had. I just had a Lot 40 the other day, so Chris Musician, aka Chris Beaton on Instagram, told me to try the Lot 40. Tried it, was delicious, fantastic. But this glass right here is just throwing me off on the flavor profile. I get a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of caramel, but nothing like crazy. I think this is done in ex-bourbon casks, so I know it doesn't have to be like original virgin oak like the bourbon does. It's just very different, and I'm wondering how much of an effect, now that I'm trying new whiskeys, that actual barreling process matters. And it seems to me at this point, it matters a lot. So if you've seen any of my weekly reviews, you know we use price, taste, drinkability on a scale of 10. Price-wise, $50, I think you should pick this up all day. I've seen this on the secondary market at like $200. Drinkability, one of the easier drinking whiskeys that I've had. And when it comes to taste on this, it's definitely different. It doesn't taste like a traditional bourbon. It doesn't taste anything like Blanton's, but it's not bad. Evergreen trees, you get the vanilla, you get a little bit of caramel. I don't get a lot more than that though. Like I said, very light, and the finish isn't very long, which I don't love, but at the end of the day, it's an 80 proof whiskey, and it's still fantastic. But listen, we do have to answer the age-old question, is Caribou Crossing the Canadian version of Blanton's? And the answer is a 100% no, it is not. Just because it has the cool little topper, just because it's bottled by Buffalo Trace, Just because it's a single barrel, it is nothing like Blanton's. It doesn't taste like it. It's not the same price. It's not the same availability. Everything about this bottle is unique to its own self, and I would pick up another bottle if I had the opportunity. So there you have it, folks. Caribou Crossing versus Blanton's. They're not the same, but at the end of the day, they're both a fantastic pour. So if you have the opportunity, make sure you grab yourself a Blanton's at MSRP. Make sure you hunt this Caribou Crossing. I promise you won't be too disappointed. But that's where I'm going to leave you for today. Make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Every Wednesday, we drop a new review of the bourbons on my shelf behind me. If you want to help support the channel financially, check us out on Patreon. And if you want to come chat with us 24/7, check us out on our Discord. That link is in the description below. Make sure you click that like. Make sure you click that subscribe button. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly. Stay healthy. Stay happy. Stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. Watch out for the reindeer.